What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the show formerly known as Throwing Stones. Welcome to Griffin and Bass. He's Griffin, I'm Bass. No longer restricted to just talk hoops. We got it all, baby. And before we dive in, gotta remind you to subscribe, all that good stuff on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We got full episodes on YouTube, as well as DetroitSportsNation.com. Ryan, no longer restricted to hoop talk, and we're going to start with hoop talk. All right. On Tuesday, the Board of Governors approved the adoption of the play-in tournament on a full-time basis, using the same format that's been in place the last 2 seasons. The play-in tournament next season will take place April 11th through the 14th, which is between the last day of the regular season on April 9th and the start of the playoffs on April 15th. The Board of Governors also approved the heightened penalty of a free throw, which may be attempted by any player on the offensive team in the game at the time of the foul, and possession when a defensive player commits a transition take foul. But the big news that you and I need to talk about is the Board of Governors has discussed an in-season tournament concept featuring all 30 teams, and the tournament model, which could be put in place during the 2023-24 season at the earliest, would see 8 teams entering a single elimination round to determine the winner, with the final 4 games occurring at a neutral site. Now, this has been thrown around for a little bit now. Back in December, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski revealed that this in-season tournament would shorten the regular season schedule from 82 games to 78 games, and they also noted that the event would wrap up before Christmas. Ryan, the season starts in October, end of October, and we're going to have this in-season tournament basically right off the bat. Now, the idea seems takes a play from what they do in professional soccer across the pond, but those tournaments involve different leagues where you'll have teams from the English Premier League facing teams from Spain's La Liga. So it's a little bit of a different situation where we're not inviting the G League, although that would be really interesting. We're not inviting anything from the European teams. It would just be NBA teams playing in this in-season tournament.
So, like last show, we can't swear on this show, but this is freaking stupid. I don't understand why, as a fan, I would give any type of a crap about this in-season tournament. It's not going to affect draft lottery standings. You don't get home court advantage in the playoffs. It's not even like a playoff tournament. There's just no reason for me as a fan to be invested. And for the players, what are they going to, like, why would the players want to play? Because I would assume it's probably structured to allow the playoffs, or even maybe March Madness, where you're playing essentially every day, especially if there's like the central location. So, like, it's going to be more taxing on their bodies. There might be a cash prize. Everybody on the winning team gets $1 million, whatever it is. So I understand the player incentive from that point. But from a fan perspective, there's no reason for me to want this tournament. There's no reason for me to watch this tournament more than there is for me to just watch a regular season game anyway. Maybe you'll get some more fans who only watch the playoffs, watch this tournament. So I guess it's probably where the NBA is coming from. But other than that, like, for me, as somebody who watches as many regular season games as I can, not just from the Pistons, the national games, NBA League Pass, all that stuff, it just seems like a bad idea to me because I'm somebody who watches these games anyway. So I don't need an extra incentive or a reason. And I'm never going to be bragging that the Pistons won this in-season tournament that nobody cares about if they like go on to even miss the play-in game or something. So I honest to God, I don't understand it. If you did, like, maybe the winner of this game, the winner of this tournament, they automatically get a play-in spot if they're not already a playoff team. But the team probably winning this tournament is probably going to be a playoff team anyway. So I don't know how much of an incentive there really is to it. And as a fan of basketball who watches games anyway, this seems like a horrible idea, and I don't understand it. It seems stupid. I'd want no parts of it.
Not all change is good. We've seen some change happening. The play-in tournament has made it interesting that if you are the 10 seed or the 9 seed, you still have a chance to make the playoffs. Where in years past, until 2 years ago, that wasn't happening. If you were 9 or 10 or 11, 12, 13, you were watching just like us from your couch. It was 1 through 8, and that was that. The play-in tournament It's great for the bubble, especially obviously in the COVID shortened season and the disjointed season. It was definitely interesting this year, and we had some fun stories out of it. The Minnesota Timberwolves crying after winning the play-in game. But we live in an era now where NBA players take off so many games in a season, the whole rest and scheduled rest and all this stuff. So with this play-in tournament, is this just a guarantee that we're going to see all the bench players playing? Because is LeBron James going to play in this play-in tournament? Is Kevin Durant? Is Steph Curry? Are these guys going to play in this play-in tournament? I don't see a scenario yet where they're going to feel like they should.
And we don't even know that it's a play-in tournament. What's the prize? Is it just money? No.
Sorry. The in-season, not the play-in. The in-season tournament, sorry.
If I was Giannis or Luka or somebody like that, no, there's no reason for me to play in this game. It doesn't make any sense. Or to play in these games more so than there is, again, for me to just play in a regular season game. There's no, I wouldn't understand the incentive, because even if you did make it financially based, Giannis, Luka, John now just signed the extension. LeBron, like you mentioned, like all those guys are already making crazy amount of money. So while to a bench player, $1 million might be 50% of their salary, 40% of what they're already making. To LeBron and Giannis and all those guys, like to them, it's pennies. So maybe it just would be a showcase of the second and third units on these teams, because I don't know what carrot you would dangle in front of LeBron, Steph Curry, any of those guys to make them want to play in this little tournament more so than they would on just a regular Tuesday night against the Timberwolves or something.
Oh, I know what carrot you dangle, but I don't think the NBA is ever going to do it. The carrot you dangle is you win this in-season tournament, and you are guaranteed no worse than a 6 seed in the playoffs, no matter how the rest of the NBA season goes. If you are guaranteed a 6 seed or better, and obviously if your play is better throughout the year, you would get whatever seed you got just through that. But look at LeBron this last year. Missed the playoffs. Lakers were garbage. If they had won the in-season tournament and were guaranteed to be the 6th seed in the NBA playoffs, that's a carrot worth playing for and trying to win the play-in tournament and having your star players play in it, because sometimes stuff happens and the season doesn't go the way you think it would, and this is so early in the season to bag yourself this guarantee of you're not facing the 1 or the 2 seed in the first round. You're guaranteed to face the 3 seed or the 4 seed, unless you are one of those higher seeds, obviously. But to me, that's the carrot that would have to be dangled to get everyone involved and all your best players involved. But I don't think the NBA is ever going to do that.
Nor do I think they should. So if you look at college basketball, they have the Battle for Atlantis and the Hawaii Nike Classic Championship, whatever it's called. All those tournaments where you get Michigan State playing Gonzaga or Memphis or somebody like that, right? Those tournaments, they only count for strength of schedule, really, and quality wins. Those don't matter in the NBA. It doesn't matter who you beat. It just matters how many wins you rack up. And then they have the conference tournaments in college, which if you win that, you're guaranteed a bid into the big tournament, which is what you're suggesting, like no lower than the 6th seed. But if this is going to be held right before Christmas or right around Christmas, that doesn't make sense to me. At least with the conference tournament in college, not that that makes so much sense to me either, because you just played this whole season, but at least that's at the end of the season. So if you win that, you can reasonably say, hey, we're the best team in the conference right now. Let us play in March where it's one and done. And I think everybody's cool with that. This is playoffs start in like April. This is what, 3 or 4 months before the playoffs start, because you had a week, 2 weeks, because you were the best team in the NBA for 14 days 4 months ago. Now you're guaranteed to get a 6 seed. Like, that part doesn't make any sense to me either. That's not to crap all over your idea, because I had something similar with the play-in thing. But I'm just thinking about it out loud now, and it literally doesn't make any sense. I don't think there's anything you can do to.
Oh, I'm not saying it did.
I don't think there's anything you can do to have these guys play in this game. I really don't, or in these games.
I get the idea of shaking things up. We're living in a different world now, with people are complaining about the length of the NBA season, like it's a baseball season of 162 games. It's been 82 games for forever. So it's not like this is something that's new. And they're talking about how this play-in, tournament, or sorry, in-season tournament will shorten the NBA season by a few games, 4 games. Is 78 versus 82 really that big of a difference? I don't think so. I don't think it's something that we're going to notice where fans are like, oh God, that felt so much better without those 4 extra games. Like 78 to 82 is not that big of a difference to me. And this in-season tournament, I don't know how they're going to make it matter. My idea is how you make it matter. I'm not saying I want that to happen, although I would love it if the Pistons win it and they're guaranteed a 6th seed in the East while finishing the season with 30 wins. Like I would love for that to happen for our teams when our teams are bad. But the way it's going right now, the way it looks, it's going to end up being a Final Four of the Kings and the Pistons and the Thunder and the Magic. Like it's going to be like the 4 worst teams that have no business being in the playoffs because they're the ones that are actually going to play their starters to showcase them and get them more time in this situation. Whereas the real teams that have a chance to fight for a championship and those star players who have been known for sitting out and missing a bunch of games, a la LeBron, Kevin Durant, whatever, what have you, there's no reason for them. And so that's my whole idea on them guaranteeing at least a 6th seed is the reason for them to play it. Do I want them to do it? No. But it's the thing in my head that makes the most sense to make it matter to the players to want to be involved in it. Now, players have apparently expressed to Adam Silver that they're for this idea. They got behind the play-in tournament more than people thought they would, but this is a different animal. And I understand the idea. And when you're basing it off of soccer, who doesn't have the playoffs the way the NBA does, they have a different situation in the Premier League and in La Liga and whatnot. So it's a different situation for them to have these in-season tournaments that happen. For us, we have the playoffs. The NBA has their playoffs. What's going to happen for the postseason? Who's going to be involved? I don't see the point of this. I don't see how they're going to get these stars to stay and play all of these games in a 2.5-week period where you're risking injury, and it just doesn't make sense. And obviously this is still something that needs to be fleshed out. This has been brought up vaguely over the last couple of years and then brought up again now recently, but it obviously still needs to be fleshed out by the NBA to make it matter to the players and obviously to the fans.
Yeah. Despite all of that, I'm going to watch regardless. That's what we have about
it. Right? Because despite all of our whining, we will watch when it happens because we love hoops and it gives us a chance to watch our guys. And look, I'm all for it if you can bring either the G League in or the younger players that don't get to play as often or as much in the regular season games because those games matter more. It gives us a chance to watch them and see them grow, a la Summer League, but you're mixing like the young stars with the bench guys who can't play in Summer League, don't play in Summer League, obviously. If you're in your 3rd year in the NBA, you're generally not playing in the Summer League unless you're just not having a good career and you're still trying to make an effort to stay in the NBA. But so for that side of it, it'd be fun to watch, but I just don't see how it's going to matter to the guys that are making millions and millions of dollars and are in the top 50 players in the NBA currently, playing in the league. I just don't see why they would get involved.
No, but if you bring a G League team in, they're going to get wiped off the face of there.
Maybe if they're playing all the bench guys from the Pistons versus the San Antonio Spurs G League squad, I don't know. It might be a good battle at least.
Nah.
These guys that get the 10-day contracts to bounce back and forth.
You're right. Ran off the earth.
All right. Well, obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on this as it continues to give us more information. This is obviously not something that's happening this upcoming season. They have time to flesh this out. Like we said earlier, 23, 24 is the year they're thinking of debuting this. So that gives them a little bit of time to really figure this out and make it matter to the players and to us fans. Right now, there's maybe $1.5 million coaches pool for I think the Final Four coaches would split that. And then obviously $1 million per player to the winning team of this in-season tournament, which is great for the guys that aren't making that much. Absolutely. But like you said, if you're Giannis, if you're Joker, if you're LeBron, Steph, whatever, and you're making upwards of $150 million plus, is $1 million really that enticing to you at that point? It doesn't. I've already got $150 and you're telling me you're going to give me $1 to do something. I'm not really that enticed to do something for that dollar. And I don't see how they're going to make it work.
Play a whole game of basketball.
Yeah. So we will obviously keep an eye on that as it moves forward, because there's a lot more that needs to come out before that is ever going to be ready for prime time. Moving on, a guy that we have kept our eye on, Ryan, for a while now, and the Pistons were linked to this guy earlier before the NBA draft, and after the draft was done, it was no longer a situation for the Pistons, but the DeAndre Ayton, one of the best young big men in the game, has received a max contract offer from the Indiana Pacers for 4 years for $133 million. And now the Suns, his former team possibly, have 2 days to match the largest offer sheet in NBA history and keep Ayton or let him go to the Pacers for nothing. How you feeling about this situation for the...
I can't believe the Suns let it get to this point, but it sounds like, at least Woj reported, that the Suns are planning to match it and that they don't have, and they're not interested in a sign and trade, which they'd still lose Ayton, but then they get some pieces back. And it sounds like, at least as of now, they're just going to match it and go into the season with them. And if they find a trade partner in the next 4 years, just how long the contract was, then so be it, right? But I think that's the right move for the Suns, is to match Ayton and bring it back, because other than that, I don't think they're still going to be a good team if they didn't have DeAndre Ayton, but they're not like nearly going to be the same. Chris Paul's getting older. You have Devin Booker, obviously superstar. They just gave him a whole bunch of $250 million, something like that, and Mikal Bridges. But the downside of it is Chris Paul's not getting any younger, right? He's obviously up there in age. You don't have so much left longer with Chris Paul. And Devin Booker, great. That's going to be your guy there for the next 10 years, probably. And then even with a guy like Bridges, and we all love his defense, but if he's not going to start hitting down like his threes on offense, then he's just a good defender. And while that's valuable, there's so many people who are just good defenders in the league, and people are always trying to get rid of them. You know, Matisse Thybulle is the guy that you always hear in trade rumors. Excellent defender, but he's not giving you anything on offense. So there's still guys that have to make improvements. But if you have Ayton, he has improvements to make, but he's already really good. You said it. He's one of the best young big men in the NBA, and he absolutely is. He's not necessarily a traditional center. He's got a bit of a face-up game, but he's not so modern and new age now that he's out there banging away from three. But he's got a nice mid-range game. He's somebody who is good on defense and offense, so he's a two-way big, which is super important in the playoffs, because then you get to some of these other guys, Rudy Gobert, famously, right? He plays worse in the playoffs, and then you have teams who are able to neutralize what Rudy Gobert does, to the point where he's playing like less minutes in the playoffs than he is in the regular season games or something. So for me, I think it's the right move on the Suns' part. They're just going to kick the can down the road, it sounds. And if you can't get a sign and trade where you can grab Kevin Durant and bring him to Phoenix, if you're going to try and package Ayton and send him to Brooklyn, anything outside of that, I think you just keep Ayton and you run it back, because you guys were still a good team. I know you got blown out in Game 7, but you're in the finals the year before. You were in Game 7 of the semifinals, the conference semifinals this year. And there's no reason you shouldn't be a good team again. But DeAndre Ayton is such a huge part of that. And getting someone, say like they got Miles Turner back in a sign and trade or something, Turner's fine, but he's not going to give you what DeAndre Ayton gives you. And so if I'm the Suns, I'm just signing Ayton, and then I'm figuring out the rest later.
Yeah, if I'm the Suns, I never let it get this far. I don't understand this for the life of me. So much was made of Ayton not playing the second half, really, of Game 7. You were down 45 points. Like, what is DeAndre Ayton going to do for you at that point to really get you into this game? Nothing. He might get you 15 points back into it, and now you're down 30. Congratulations. Like, he's not going to do anything for you right there. Why risk the injury when he's coming up on this contract year? And this is a guy who has been consistently very good. 17 and 10, 11, 12 rebounds as the third option on his team. This isn't a guy that's putting up 17 and 10 as the number one guy or the number two guy even. He is the third option behind Booker and CP3, and he's putting up these numbers for you. So imagine what he would put up if you actually focused on him as a focal point in your offense. This guy can easily get you 25 points and 15 rebounds if you wanted that to be your offense. You obviously don't in Phoenix. You've gone this new wave with the way that the offense has gone in the NBA, but you were the number one seed this past year. You blew it against the Dallas Mavericks, and for the life of me, I still can't figure out how you blew it against the Dallas Mavericks, but you did. I don't know if it's just Chris Paul being too old and he can't play this many games in a season. Maybe you start shutting him down for 30 games to start the year, let him start after Christmas or something, and let him play from then on. I don't really know the answer to that question, but you have a very good young center who's turning, 24 years old. He's still got a lot of NBA life left in him. He's putting up very good numbers for the limited amount of touches he's getting in that offense. You don't want to make him the focal point because that's not today's NBA unless he starts hitting a lot more threes than he's hitting. And he can hit the three, but it's not something that's been really his focal point in basketball in general since coming into college and then the pros. But he's damn good at what he does, and he makes you a better team, and he is one of the top 5-6 centers in the league. I don't know why you let it get this far to the point that Indiana even has a chance to steal him away from you when you were the number 1 seed, and 2 years ago you were in the NBA Finals. So you're not a bad team, and you're right there as far as a finals contender, and you let it get this far with one of the best young players in the NBA. Meanwhile, you have aging all-time great point guard that I don't know how much he has left because he seemed to really disappear in those last few games against Dallas. And I don't know if that was him hitting the cliff or if him just being too tired throughout the season. He missed a bunch of games throughout the year. What did he miss? 12, 15 games, something like that with the hand, the wrist, thumb injury, whatever the heck he had that took him out around the All-Star break. So he didn't play the full season anyway. But to me, if I'm the Suns, my focus is on keeping Booker and Ayton and figuring out everything else. Not focusing on keeping Chris Paul and Booker and focusing on everything else. I'm much more focused on keeping DeAndre Ayton on my team.
And at least keep Ayton for now. If you don't like him, like in a year, like then try and trade him. But run it back because he is, again, one of the better centers in the NBA, and he has so much room to get better. He's young. He's gotten better every year in the NBA. You're not paying him for what he's done, really. You're paying him for what you assume he can become in these next 4 years. And what he's done is already pretty impressive. And then what he can become is hopefully even more impressive than what you've already seen from him. And again, if it doesn't work out, then try and trade. There's always going to be somebody who wants to trade for him, whether it's the contract, the asset, whatever the case is. And that's, I think that's how you should play it. You should run it back and then see what happens from there. You don't have to keep them all 4 years, but it's better than losing them for nothing or getting pennies on the dollar back.
Yeah. All right. So here's the situation now. If the Suns do match the offer sheet and they end up re-signing Ayton, they cannot trade him anywhere until January 15th. And they can't trade him to Indiana for at least a year. And Ayton will also have veto power on any trade for a year, which I've never looked that hard into NBA contract situations. I think that's funny that because Indiana was the one to make him the offer, you now can't trade. You can't trade him to them for a year because they were the ones that wanted him.
And we are recording on Thursday, so the 48 hours doesn't start until midnight Thursday, like going into Friday. So it's about 8 o'clock on the East Coast now. I don't know what time their midnight is, but if it's midnight Eastern, it's about 4 hours for Phoenix and Indiana to work out a sign and trade before that 48-hour clock strikes. Because once he signs it, they can't sign and then they just have to match, is my understanding of it. So if they're going to sign and trade, they have to do it in the next couple hours here.
So Indiana, it's an interesting situation. Indiana has had some good pieces in Malcolm Brogdon and Domantas Sabonis. They both gone. Indiana swept them out. They traded Sabonis this past year to the Kings in a big trade. They traded Malcolm Brogdon now this offseason. It looks like they're going to be building around Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin, who was the 6th pick this year in the NBA draft for them. They have to clear out some other space as well if they want to be able to sign Ayton to that max offer. And looks like every piece they got back from Boston, they're willing to sweep away to bring DeAndre Ayton in. But so you're looking at a future possibility for Indiana of Halliburton and Mathurin as your backcourt, and then DeAndre Ayton leading the attack on the front court. It could be a very interesting situation in the East to have DeAndre Ayton there with that backcourt, if Mathurin pans out, which I think he will in the NBA. But Indiana, they've had chances to really grow, and then they swept them away, and I'm redoing it again and restarting it again. Ayton would be a great grab for them in the East to go along with that backcourt to really start to build something over the next few years.
The Pacers have definitely hit a reset button. All those guys super young, even if you're going to throw Ayton in there, obviously. And then him, Halliburton, and Mathurin all growing together. And then we'll see where that takes them. It's another case of a team who they could get to the playoffs, and then they were never really like a threat though. Like they get there and be the 7th seed, the 6th seed, whatever the case is, and then they just decided, okay, we need to bottom out. We're gonna get a young guy back for our start, which was obviously a Sabonis. Didn't really get so much back for Brogdon. A couple picks, I think, but they're the Celtics picks, and the Celtics should be pretty good for a long time. But just other late first round throws at the dartboard that Indiana can use to trade. They can keep the picks. They can do whatever they want, really, with them. And it's something that I think we're going to see a lot. It's something we've certainly seen the Pistons do before, where they were perpetually fighting as that 8th seed. And then they decided, all right, you know what? It's time to sweep. It's time to tank. Boom, we get the number 1 pick, Kate Cunningham's here, and now our future is looking brighter than ever. And for the Pacers, we don't know how any of these guys are going to pan out. Halliburton's already pretty good. Ayton's already pretty good if he ends up going to Indiana. And then I guess they'll see with Mathurin. They're going to need a few more pieces, I think, to make some real noise in the East. But it'll be fun to see those guys develop all together if Ayton does indeed end up going to the Pacers, which still obviously isn't a guarantee. But yeah, interesting for them. They clearly want somebody or another young piece who's not like Mathurin in the sense that it's a rookie and they're super unproven. Because again, Tyrese Halliburton has already proven to be good. DeAndre Ayton has already proven to be really good. So I think that's where the Pacers want to go. And maybe if they don't land Ayton, they're going to try and grab some other young asset who's already established himself somewhat.
Yeah. All right. So we spend our entire career here on our shows for DSN talking about NBA or college basketball and nothing else. And we are free of those chains and bonds, so we can jump off of basketball for a little bit. Ryan, you have a gripe with Detroit Lions fans like myself.
I know you
that still root for our former quarterback who has gone on to win a Super Bowl in his first year since leaving the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford. So get it out there. Get it off your chest.
Yeah. So last year, huge debate. Root for Stafford to win or root for the Rams to lose, and then the Lions get a better pick than pick 32, which they ended up trading anyway. There's two camps, right? No, there's the Detroit Rams, and then there's the Detroit Lions, essentially. Stafford ends up winning the Super Bowl. Great for him. Validated everybody who said, no, Stafford is a really good quarterback, right? Led the league in interceptions, didn't matter, ended up winning the Super Bowl. Hurrah for Matthew Stafford. Everybody who was on the Detroit Rams bandwagon, proven they can give themselves a pat on the back, a round of applause, whatever they want to do, because their boy won the Super Bowl, and they were proven that Matt Stafford is a good quarterback, which is what they were obviously shouting from the rooftops. We also have the Rams first-round pick this upcoming draft. Can we all come together and please root for the Detroit Lions instead of root for Matthew Stafford? Now that he already has a Super Bowl, you're already proven right. Nobody's going to say that he sucks now because he just won his Super Bowl. Come back on the other side. Come on down to Ford Field. Root for the Lions, root for the demise of Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams, so that we can finally actually turn that first round pick into something more valuable than what pick 32, was going to end up being. We had to use it to move up in the trade, obviously. Let's hope for a top 10 pick this time, and let's not root for Stafford and the Rams to get all the way to the Super Bowl. And I'm just wondering if people are willing to do that, if they're willing to come back on the side of, okay, you got your Super Bowl. Now I'm going to focus back on the Lions' future and good fortunes for my Detroit Lions team, and then root for you to lose because it helps the Lions. It helped the Lions last year, but maybe you had a point to prove because you love Matthew Stafford. God bless you. You approved right. Now just come back. Just come back. So I'll be Lions fans again. What?
Ryan, who won Super Bowl MVP?
Cooper Kupp.
So now Matthew Stafford is now joining the list of a Trent Dilfer
All right.
and the likes of quarterbacks who won a Super Bowl but weren't the Super
So
Bowl
nobody that's a
MVP.
Stafford fan thinks about that.
No, oh, absolutely not. But the Stafford haters are sitting there
Man.
comparing him to a Trent Dilfer and saying, even Trent Dilfer got a Super Bowl, and that's where they're throwing Matthew Stafford in for that camp. And to me, that's a problem because Matthew Stafford is 1,000 times the quarterback that Trent Dilfer ever was. And he absolutely got robbed of Super Bowl MVP. And if Odell Beckham Jr. did not get hurt in the Super Bowl and he had a couple touchdowns to go along with Kupp's a couple touchdowns, Stafford would have been the Super Bowl MVP because he would have had 4 or 5 touchdown passes and they would have each had 2 and they would have had to give it to the quarterback. But they found a way to screw him and they gave it to a wide receiver instead. And it's still an issue, and it's still a problem for the Matthew Stafford haters to point out. So until that happens, I'm going to be rooting for number 9, but I'm not rooting for him over our Detroit Lions. That is definitely never happening. I will always be rooting for the Lions first and foremost, but we're not a good team still, Ryan. We're building towards being a good team, but I don't believe Jared Goff is our guy for the future. And so I don't want the Lions to do that well this year because I want them on their own merit to get a top 5 pick. And yeah, maybe something happens with the Rams, injuries happen, stuff sucks, but I'm still hoping that Stafford goes back and tries to defend that Super Bowl crown because if he goes back to back and does finally get that Super Bowl MVP, you can't keep the man out of the Hall of Fame at that point if he's got 2 Super Bowls and a Super Bowl MVP. Hell, you're going to put Eli Manning in, who's a 10th of the quarterback that Matthew Stafford is. So if he's got 2 and Stafford's got 2, you absolutely have to put Stafford in at that point. So there's no argument to be had. And then I can root for the downfall of the Rams.
No, because we're not going to have their picks, so it's not going to matter. This is literally the only year that it matters. I don't care what the Rams do.
Okay, you know what? I got you. All right, you know what? You're right. All right, that's fine. We can have a 1-year fall off this year for the Rams. Super Bowl hangover, and they end up going 10-7 or whatever. And we can end up with a 22nd pick in the draft for the Rams pick. And then next year they can come back.
They can do whatever they want in 2024.
24. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing is like, you know, and we're joking around here, obviously. Of course, I want the Lions to do really well. Eventually, I still don't believe Goff is the guy. I've seen 5 years of the man playing quarterback. I think that's enough time to see what kind of quarterback he is, unless he has got a very good team around him, a la the 2018 LA Rams. He's not that good of a quarterback. He can put up some nice numbers, but he's not leading you to victories. You got to rely on a great running game to get where they're going and a pretty darn good defense as well. The Lions haven't had a great running game since Barry Sanders was running here, and that was a very long time ago. I just don't think Goff is the guy. But for the Rams part of it, how bad of a downfall do you really think is going to happen? How great of a pick is even possible for the Lions to get from the Rams in the next NFL draft?
I don't know. We saw Matthew Stafford quarterback some Lions teams that were picking pretty high. So I don't know. Whatever happens with injuries, and I don't want anyone to get injured, but people are going to get injured. It's football. It happens. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, Stafford broke his back again. But something's going to happen to somebody on that. So, like, might as well root for the Rams to lose because I'm a Stafford hater. I didn't know he's saying that Trent Dilfer stuff, at least not that I've heard. And if you're a Stafford fan and you're hearing that, so what? He won a Super Bowl, and he played pretty well in that Super Bowl, made some huge plays in the fourth quarter, which is all anyone remembers, and great for him. So that's all you have to say. Just like when Clayton Kershaw won his World Series. Now he can finally tell everybody, did you shut the hell up forever?
Mm-hmm. All right, unless something drastically happens, realistic expectations are the Rams are going to have a winning record. Unless something really drastic happens and they lose a heck of a lot of people. The Rams, you should expect to have no worse than a 10-7 record, I would think. Are you thinking otherwise?
Yeah, 10-7 is probably what, top 20? Or just outside that top 20? Perfect.
I would, yeah, right around, 21, 22, probably, something like that. Better than 30, well, which the Lions didn't even have anyway. And even if they would have kept it, they would have gotten the player that a lot of people wanted the Lions to have in the first place. They could have grabbed it at 32.
It doesn't mean they weren't going to.
They could have. Right. Doesn't mean they could have grab them, but they could have. There was still great players to be had at the end of that draft because that first round of the NFL draft this year was crazy.
To be had at 20, 30.
I can't remember a draft. Yeah. Okay, I got you. All right, I'm with you on that train then. I'll come over for that train because for the 1 year that we still have a draft pick.
The 0-17 rank. That's all we need.
We got one draft pick left from the Rams. And so 2024, you can go back to rooting for Stafford to win a Super Bowl. But for this year coming up, he got his Super Bowl. He proved everyone wrong that hates him out in Detroit, that it was not his fault the Lions were as bad as they were. And so now you can take a year off, watch the demise of the Rams through injuries, and it's not Stafford's fault if they just lose everybody on the offensive side and everybody on the defensive side, but number 9 still out there playing with a broken back, arm, leg, head, whatever, and the Rams end up going 6-11, and we get a top 15 pick. Let's do it. We can have our own top 5 pick because we're going to be bad again, and a top 15 pick from the Rams. So 2 picks inside the top 15. I'm with you for the 1 year, but then Stafford's got to bounce back because it doesn't matter to us anymore as Lions fans anyway. We're not getting any draft picks out of it.
Whatever you want to do after this year, it's fine with
me. All right, we're coming to the close of the show, but before we get out of here, we are going to jump into a series of Mount Rushmores. We're trying to tweak it a little bit, have our own different variants on the Mount Rushmores. So we're going to start, Ryan, with the Mount Rushmores of baseball caps. So let's go with from 4 to 1. So who is your number 4 all-time great baseball cap?
I guess I didn't so much rank them in 1 through 4, but
you don't have an order of them. You just have your 4.
1 and then probably 2, and then my other 2 are just like whatever. But one of the caps I like, and I hope we'll be able to show this somehow, the St. Louis Cardinals blue hat. The one that has it's a picture of the Cardinal.
The Cardinal on it?
Like the powder blue, the baby blue, whatever you want to say.
On the bat?
Yeah, but the baby blue one, not the navy blue. The baby blue hat I really like, and I just like the Cardinals logo in general. And I think the blue and the red is something that I enjoy.
So I had a hard time narrowing it to 4. And look, we're saying the Mount Rushmore. There's 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. And so you have to limit it to 4. And so I had a tie for 4th. And so I can go to the coin if I have to. But it's funny because I also have St. Louis, but it's not the baby blue Cardinal, although I do love that hat. But it's just the traditional STL. I love the way they finally figured it out because it took a long time for them. A lot of years of them messing with and tinkering with the STL on the St. Louis hat. But between that and the San Francisco Giants, normally hideous colors of black and orange, but for the Giants, it seems to work really well for their cap. So the ATSAP San Francisco and the STL of St. Louis I think they're both iconic in their own way. Look, I don't think there's a more iconic red hat in baseball than the St. Louis Cardinals. It's just, they got the market on that one. And then obviously if you're seeing black and orange, it's the San Francisco Giants. But so between the two of them, that is my number 4 spot on the Mount Rushmore. Who you got for 3?
For 3, I have the Baltimore Orioles cartoon Oriole hat that I looked it up. I think they used it from 1966 to 1988, but a cartoon Oriole with a big smile.
Is it the Oriole swinging the bat?
No, actually, it's just the Oriole like smiling, but it's still a cartoon Oriole, and I enjoy that. Okay. I enjoy when the cartoons are merged into the baseball hat.
We are going very different so far with ours. You're going fun, and I'm going nostalgic, I guess. So for me,
see a Yankee hat on here.
This is true. This is very true.
Iconic.
All right. For me, it's the Dodger hat. And again, it's 2 here because the Brooklyn B Dodger hat is just iconic, but we never grew up with that, obviously. The Dodgers have been in Los Angeles since the 60s, long before any of us were born. But both the Brooklyn B for the Dodgers hat, as well as the Los Angeles LA, they're both just iconic. They're both in Dodger blue. It's got its own name for the team on the color. You got to be kidding me here. But the Dodger blue LA or Brooklyn hat, to me, they're both classic. They're beautiful looking hats, and they're both iconic in their own ways. Number 2 for me, it's us. It's the English D. The Tigers have had this. It first appeared on the uniform in 1904. It made it to the Caps a year later. So since 1905, they bounced around with some weird-looking other Ds for a little bit, but they always come back to the original, the Detroit Tigers Classic D, whether you like it in the white for the home or the orange for the road. Either way, on that dark blue,
well, you got to pick one.
It's just a beautiful baseball cap. And I picked the white. I picked the home just because I can rock more with it. The orange is a little bit off-putting. I got to go for certain outfits if I'm rocking the road cap. But with the home cap and just the blue and the white, I can rock a heck of a lot more with it. And look, I was nicknamed Turtle from Entourage for a reason. My hats have got to go with the outfit. Otherwise, I'm not rocking them.
Number 2 for me
You got for 2.
is the Milwaukee Brewers yellow hat with the blue baseball mitt with the M and the B that make the mitt with the baseball in the middle. It's an amazing logo, and the hat itself, you see it, obviously, boom, like straight yellow, but just a glorious hat. Yeah, a glorious hat, a glorious logo, and it's one of my favorite hats.
All right, we'll save your number 1 for last because obviously you're not going where I'm going. You've already mentioned that. We went completely different routes with this. I'm going to have to redo another Mount Rushmore of cartoon baseball hats because that's where you seem to go with this one. But for me, look, this hat represents the entire city. Obviously, Jay-Z made it even more famous around the world, but people flat out ignore the other baseball team because of this hat, because they think that the Yankee Fitted is what represents the entire state of New York. It's classic. Obviously, actually, fun fact for you, that New York NY on the hat came after the Detroit D on our hats. They had nothing on their hats for the longest time in New York, and then eventually threw an NY on there, and eventually came to the one that we've grown to know and love for so long. Hip-hop got behind it. That helped it blow up even more in the end of the 90s, but it's hard. I understand your hatred of the Yankees and why you're not going to throw that hat anywhere near your Mount Rushmore, but the Yankee Fitted navy blue and white, it's just iconic, and it makes people even forget they even have another baseball team there in the Mets. I'm not a fan of the Yankees, but I am a fan of that hat, and it's just a clean NY look, and it's number 1 for a reason. Who you got for your number 1?
My number 1 was your number 2. I like the home Tiger hats, the navy and the blue. Play into the crowd here, but I love the Old English D. I think it's just a great logo, a cool looking hat in general. And if your name's Devin or Daryl or something, then you get to wear it, and you don't even have to necessarily represent the team or the city or something like that. So I like it. And a lot of the lists I was looking at actually had the Tigers, the road ones, the blue and orange ones, as like one of the better hats. I like the white more than I like the orange.
Yeah, I saw that too, actually. It's weird for me. I was trying to think also just in general. It seems like we're one of the few teams that actually have a standard home and road hat. You'll get the alternate variants for other teams that they'll wear. Sometimes the Cardinals have a Sunday hat they wear, kind of a la the Lakers with the Sunday white jersey that they invented eventually. But the Tigers have always had a home and a road for as long as I can remember, which I always thought was just very cool in its own. And they just give you different looks. Obviously, they go well with their home and road jerseys. There's not really any orange involved in the home jerseys for the Tigers, and there's a good amount of it in the road for them. It's a good look, and it's weird because it confuses me sometimes. You see the Giants and the Tigers playing each other. If the Tigers are on the road, it's a little close, the dark blue versus the black, the orange on both of them. But I did find that weird that most people went with the road side because I just think the home ones are so clean.
Yeah, it's my favorite hat. I don't even know how many of them I've had throughout my life, but the answer's a bunch.
Yeah, same. My head just seems to keep growing. I feel like I'm Barry Bonds in the last decade of his career for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. Head needs to start shrinking so I can put on some old hats. All right, that is going to do it for us. We thank you for hanging out with us on our inaugural show of Griffin and Bass. Thank you for hanging out with us. Don't forget to subscribe everywhere you can find us. And remember, Wu-Tang is for the children. Peace. Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah.